Welcome to the Thrive with Omu Podcast, where each week I'll chat with an amazing entrepreneur on their growth journey. They'll be sharing this with us to help and encourage us to take that bold step. Hello, people. It's yet another Friday, and I have with me Sabrina Wages. She's a life coach as well as an author. Thank you so much, Sabrina, for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Awesome. We're excited as well. So tell us a little bit about Sabrina.
Oh, a little bit about me. Let's see. So I'm 26 and I've lived a lot of life. I am a stage 4 cancer survivor, and that kind of opened the door for me to write. I have 3 published books and have entered into the world of life coaching as well as acting. I have a very, very strong heart for God, and I love watching him work in each of those aspects of my life and grow it.
At 26.
Yes.
That's a lot of achievement. What are the books about? Are they centered around the same issues, or are they different? What are the books about?
The first 2 books go together. The first one is Finding the Goodness of God. So it's about finding God's goodness during the trials and tribulations that you go through in life. And then the second book kind of follows it up. It's called Hallelujah After the Battle. So it's how to overcome after you've gone through the trial or tribulation, which was a big thing for me. And then the third one is actually a devotional called Dear Daughter, and it is daily love letters from God, and it's a 90-day devotional, and it gives you a space in there to write your own love letter back to God. So it's really cool.
I'd love that. Awesome. So it sounds like the books are centered around your journey.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about this journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had some medical things for many years, inflammation and all sorts of things. I've gone to so many doctors, and no one was ever able to tell me what was wrong. I was told that I had anxiety because I was a girl. I was told all sorts of things. And it was a Tuesday morning, I think, in April of 2020. So all the pandemic stuff had just started. And I got up to go to work. I was helping a CPA out for a couple months. And I got up to go to work that morning and got so dizzy, and everything was spinning. And I was 24 at the time, still lived at home. And so I was like, okay, if I can just get to my mom, that was my goal. So I tried to get up the stairs, and at some point I blacked out and fell. And my mom heard the thud because she thought that I had slammed the door really loud. And so she scooped me up and she was like, we're going to the ER. Someone is going to tell us what is wrong with you today. And so we went, and within 2 hours, now keep in mind, mom couldn't be with me. I was doing all this by myself. Within 2 hours, they were telling me, well, this has to be cancer. That's all we can find with the scans. Yeah. And it was, looking back now though, it was definitely a God thing, because they scanned my chest with a CT, which I went in for a fall. So like the ideal thing would have been to scan my head. Yeah. And so it was funny because I was like, okay. And looking back, because I was like, why did they do that? But looking back, that was God, because they caught something on that. And it actually took us about 6 months to diagnose it, because the tests kept coming back normal. I had like bone marrow biopsies, lymph node biopsies, all sorts of stuff. And they kept coming back normal. And I even went to go see a oncologist, because something was on my ovaries, but he couldn't find anything. So the oncologist decided to wait a few months and do another scan. And that's when they did see something of concern. I went to see the surgeon, and he said, hey, we need to take your spleen out. So I had the splenectomy, and that is when, and again, had to do most of that on my own, because mom was only allowed in for 2 hours at a time due to the pandemic. So 4 days after surgery in the hospital, mostly by myself. And the surgeon comes in, who thought it was something totally different. And he said, you have cancer. He's like, I'm so sorry. I thought it was something different, but you have Hodgkin's lymphoma. Yes.
This is after the spleen surgery.
Yes, because they took my spleen and they took like 2 or 3 lymph nodes in the same area. And so I'm trying to remember, I think they found it in both from the reports that I saw. And it started out as a stage 3, and cancer becomes a stage 4 once it is outside of its primary location. And lymphoma is a little different because it's of the lymph nodes, so it's kind of already all over the body. But mine had gone into my spleen and also onto my pelvic bone, so it quickly got changed to a stage 4. And my oncologist was never worried. He was he was like super, like they call it the curative plan.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, I like love that so much. And
I'm
like,
sure that kind of strengthened you.
yes, and that's actually, I think, what they called it when they came in right before I left the hospital, right after I was diagnosed. They just like were making their rounds, one of his nurses, and she came in and said, okay, well, this is our curative plan. And so it was kind of a nice stepping off point and really helped. And we talked with like our co-pastor at church, and he was like, don't think of chemo and all of that as anything like the movies. Like that was his advice. He was like, he said, you like in the movies, they portray it as like sad and people, and
hair falling.
yes. And he was totally right. Like we did go in and had an informational meeting, and I was told every single possible side effect of all 4 drugs they were giving me. It took an hour and a half. And there was a 70% chance I'd lose my hair, and I did not. I have found my scripture and I stood on it, and my hair thinned a bit, but in a ponytail, no one ever knew. We kept our circle very small with who knew, because we only needed positive. We didn't need negative being.
Absolutely, because sometimes you're just hearing too much.
Yes, exactly. And I know that my faith needed to be strong in that moment, and during that time. And so a lot of people afterwards, once they found out, they were like, oh my gosh, because I went to church like normal. I went to everything, and it was easy because everybody wore a mask. It wasn't like I had to be, it was during the pandemic. So
yeah.
yeah.
So
And so
they've seen very little of your face anyway.
yes. Yep. And so I did do 6 months of chemo, 12 different treatments. Every other week I had to go in, and every week I had to go in and have blood work drawn. And it was actually all done an hour away from home too. And so like my siblings here at home, I had one of the older ones had to watch the younger one. So it was a very big family time of coordination and figuring things out. But after 4 treatments, I had clean scans and I was considered cancer free.
I mean, that is a miracle.
It truly is. Like even they were like, whoa, because I did finish all 12 just to have the complete everything, which we'd agreed to, which was fine. But yeah, I was cancer free after 4. My oncologist told me that I was the only patient he's ever had that gained weight during chemo. Yeah. Yeah. It was awesome. And I actually got back up to where I was supposed to be, because I had dropped down to 97 pounds. And so I actually ended my last chemo treatment. They weighed me, and I weighed what I was before all of this started. It was to the dot. Like, yeah. Yeah, it was amazing. I never threw up once. Never. Yeah, it was just truly incredible. And to see the people that I've been able to influence because of walking through that, it's truly amazing. We also, during half of my chemo, my grandma had a major brain bleed and was in the hospital, in and out. So we were dealing with that while I did chemo and finished everything. And so it was kind of a combo journey there of life. But it's been a difficult couple of years, but it's amazing the good that has come out of it.
Amazing. I know that being prayerful certainly helped. That would help a great deal. What else would you say was the one thing or 2 things that really, kind of served as a source of strength or source of support during that trying period?
I would say one of the things would definitely be not being afraid to ask for help. I had to learn that the hard way. Like, I have been so independent. My parents got divorced several years ago, and so like I've watched mom be the main like strength, the main everything. And so I've kind of like gotten that ingrained habit in me of like, oh, I can do it all. I can, And so really just asking, telling the right people about what was going on, Lord led. And then when they said, hey, what can I do for you? Even if it was something like, hey, I'm really craving grapes today. I had a girl, one of my friends, and she like was like, oh, okay. So she brought a bag of grapes and left them at the top of the stairs. But it's realizing the true friends you have around you, and kind of leaning into them during that hard time, because we trust in God, but God put people around us on purpose.
Yes. He plants people around us for a purpose, actually. He does. He does.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this happened when 2022, and this happened in 2020.
This was in 2020 through 2021.
Wow, that was such a short period. So much happened.
It really did. It was so weird because like from start to finish, even with that like 5-6 months of not being diagnosed, it was literally all done within a year, technically. Like, wow. I had my port in a little bit longer, because we had to like wait to have that out. But overall, yeah, it was like by my next birthday, I was like, oh, I'm done. Looky there.
Amazing. I'm actually staring at you because, I mean, like what you said about watching films and having this stereotyped impression of cancer survivors or cancer victims. So you're looking at them expecting to see something that says, oh, I have cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see anything like that in you. So when did you write these books?
I actually wrote, so I've had it on I call it a vision list of things I want to do. I've had it on there for years and years, but never knew what to write about. And my first one I actually wrote, I started halfway through chemo in January, because started chemo in September. And so in January of 2021, I started writing, and I actually had it finished within 2 months. I wrote it pretty quick. So once I knew what I wanted to write about, I wrote it. So I had that one, and it was published. It was published through Trilogy. So Trinity Broadcasting Network wanted that one. And so they did the publishing. And so that came out September of 2021, almost exactly a year from my diagnosis. It was pretty special. I was diagnosed on September 4th, 2020, and it came out on September 3rd, 2021. So that was a God thing. I didn't set that date. I didn't do that. The publishing company did. And so then the next two I wrote toward the end of last year, and I published in, I believe, early February of this year. And I actually self-published those. So within a year, I had 3 books published.
That's amazing. And are these books sold on Amazon or anything? They're sold on Amazon.
Yes, they're on Amazon and really like any online bookstore, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Target, I believe, has them online. Amazon's just the easiest for a lot of people to.
Yeah, Amazon is usually the easiest. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you? What was your job description? What were you working as before the cancer?
Well, I worked at a place here. It's called Sight and Sound Theaters. It's a big Christian theatrical production, and I had actually done a couple years in the cast there. And then I did 3 years in the box office as customer service representative. And I had actually, it was about a year and 2 months before I was diagnosed, I had resigned from there to start my photography business full time. And it was such a major blessing, because like that was totally God timing. And I do have to say, over the last like 4 or 5 years since I've been self-employed, it's been a like full-on trusting God for finances thing, which has grown my faith exponentially. But looking at it, God set me up though, so I could be home during, like, I still did photo shoots. I just wore my mask, stood back a little bit, and did it on like the off weeks between chemo. And people were really understanding. They were like, okay, yeah, whatever we need to do. So I was still able to work photography during that, which was awesome. So that's what I did prior to. And then I worked for a CPA for a little bit and helped here and there.
So how did you decide to go into life coaching?
So earlier this year, I was in Alaska with my sister. She lives there and she was having her first baby. So I was there for a month with her. And so I had like a bit of downtime and stuff. And I was on Instagram one day and Terry Savelle Foy had posted on her Instagram. She's like, hey, if you are, what'd she say? The Lord had just spoken to me about public speaking. So she put on there, hey, if you want to be a public speaker, hey, if you want to be share your testimony. Like she listed like 5 things that God had put on my heart. And I was like, okay, what is this? So I clicked the next slide and it brought up, her name is Hannah Keeley and she's awesome. And she has this life coach school. It's called Covenant Coach Academy. And so I pulled it up and it is a Christian-based, Bible-based life coach training program. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to do this. And so I was talking back and forth with her team and they helped me out and got me encouraged to do it. And so the Lord kept telling me the word jump. That is what he kept saying. And I was like, okay, I have to do this. And so I did. I jumped and I've done the training and I'm working on getting my practicum hours right now to get certified. And it has changed my life. Like if I only did it just for me, it was worth it because the confidence that gave me opened up the door for me to do acting again.
Nice.
Big way. Yeah. So it's like, but now that I get to use my Christian life coach training and help people, and I feel like now more than ever, people need that. I've heard that the waiting list for like therapists and different things can be like 4 or more weeks for people. And some of them up to like, I don't know, 6 months. And it's like, these people need help.
Yes,
And
absolutely. I agree.
And it's like to be able to help them from a Christian perspective is amazing. And to just help them and guide them through. Because as a life coach, we guide our clients to the answers. We don't give them the answers. We help them discover what's already inside of them. It's just, yeah, it's an incredible opportunity to be able to help other people in such a big way.
Nice. So when do you intend to launch your coaching outfit?
I'm currently taking clients and I'm actually working on an online course right now, which I'm really excited about. And yeah, that's I'm like, I think I might have finally found the topic I want to do it on. So I'm excited. But like one-on-one clients, I'm taking right now. So totally open to them. I love doing it. So yeah.
Nice. How do you think your story, I mean, the question might sound really silly, but I want to hear it from you. How do you think your experience has affected the person that you are today?
It has definitely given me more strength. Because anytime I think, okay, like, can God really do this for me? Or like, do I really have it in me to do this? I'm reminded, like, with God's help, I beat stage 4 cancer. Like, not everybody can say that. And, quite a few people that have the stage 4 cancer diagnosis don't make it to say, hey, look, I conquered this. So it has really affected me with that. It has changed my level of like boldness, because you only get one life and we all know that. But until you're standing up against that wall of, oh, my one life may be taken from me, it changes your outlook on life. I think that's one of the biggest things is like, don't wait for tomorrow to chase your dreams because you may not have tomorrow. Exactly. So yeah, that would probably be the biggest way it's affected me.
Wow. Nice. I'm really excited. So you have your books being sold on Amazon and other bookstores. Mm-hmm. You're coming up with your life coaching training. You're doing your one-to-ones. That is amazing. So, I mean, with all that said, would you honestly say you're living your best life?
I really am. And these past couple months, I've almost like struggled with like, it's that patience and like waiting for the bigger things to happen. But once I stepped back and was like, I looked at like all that God has allowed me to do in such a short time at such a young age and the impact that I'm already having on people. Like, I just see someone on Facebook, they're like, hey, I just got diagnosed with this. I'm like, hey, cool. You don't have to go through this, this, and this because I didn't. So like you can have it too. And just the amount of people that, I've just been able to help. And
Encourage.
it's, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that is really amazing. So if you were to meet a cancer patient now, what would be the top three tips or advice you'd give to them?
If I was to meet someone that's like going through
Cancer.
cancer,
And that said, sorry to interrupt you. And that said, I noticed that with ailments like cancer, I believe that a lot of times it's not the cancer that kills them at the time they die. It's the thought and the fact that they just give up. And this is me inclusive. I don't know what I'll do if they told me I had cancer. It's difficult to hear it and try to overcome the negative thoughts that would come with it and still be positive and, be bold. A lot of people just take it as a death sentence and they throw in the towel. So that I know. So what would you say to them? Because what were you saying to yourself at that point? Did you ever at some point give up or come close to giving up?
I can honestly say no in that. Because from the very first moment I was laying in the hospital bed, because technically they told me twice that I had cancer. One time they just couldn't find it, and then the second time they did. So I've been laying in a hospital bed alone and heard it twice. And both times it came to me like, what is your first reaction going to be? And a story of Kenneth Copeland's came up to me, and one of his granddaughters was very ill. And so but his daughter walked right up and said, I refuse to fear. And so I made sure that that was the first thing that came out of my mouth both times.
Yeah.
And so that first reaction, and and even if you like, for that first day, you're like, what? Because it is a big shock. It's a big thing, but it's not the end. Like I never thought I was going to die. That was never a concern of mine. I can honestly say that, which is amazing to me because even when they bumped it, even when they bumped it to stage 4, my mom was sitting next to me and she was like, what? And I'm over there and I'm like, cool, bigger testimony. Like I literally told her that in the car.
You are bold.
I was like, okay, cool. So it affects more, so I can influence more people. That, and I love that you touched on that some people just give up. So I was sitting there were 4 chemo treatments that I had to do on a different floor than the other 8. And I was in there by myself. Mom couldn't be with me. So I was just sitting there, and it was the hospital floor. So it was more, the chairs were closer together. And whenever someone had a consultation with like the drug information and all of this, you kind of overheard it because you're literally sitting right next to the people. And so they came into this lady that was sitting next to me, and they started telling her all the side effects and everything. And she was like, she started talking about how she said, yeah, well, I already have an appointment next week to have my head shaved. I'm already planning on not going anywhere for the next however long her chemo treatments were. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, she's already given up.
Yeah.
And it hurt my heart to hear that, because I was like, maybe it's just me because I'm like a super feisty, stubborn person. But like, I was like, no, like, because whenever they told me that I was going to lose my hair, yes, I cried in the car on the way home. And then I was like, no, I don't have to. I have the word to stand on. And like we always spoke, no bad side effects. What you say matters would probably be my other thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What we say matters.
Yes, that is a big thing that we were already big on. But like I kept speaking, no negative side effects, no negative side effects. And I saw it evident because there was one drug that was so hardcore. They were like, oh, by the way, you should really flush the toilet twice because it can eat away at the toilet. And my mom was like, awesome, you're gonna put that in my child. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's in my system.
Yes, yeah, and they're like, and they had to push it because if they put it they put it in my port, but if they don't sit there and push it, they let it drip, there's a chance that it could, if it leaks out at all, it could start hurting my skin and
My
yeah,
goodness.
yeah, and that was one of 4 that I had, and but like I always spoke it, because one of the side effects of it, they were like, don't be alarmed if you go to the bathroom because it could turn everything like orange for a little while or red because of the color. Yeah, while your body flushes it out. And I never had that. I like the first time I went to the bathroom after, it would maybe be slightly orange and then everything's normal. Like none of the side effects like that they said happened. And so because I just kept speaking no negative side effects and I had maybe 1 or 2. But I like never throwing up. I kept saying, I never get sick. I never get sick. This doesn't make me sick. And it truly didn't because I had the faith behind the words. So what you say matters.
I had the faith behind the words. I'm actually speechless. This is so inspiring. I wish all my guests would listen to this and all the listeners and subscribers. Thank you so much, Sabrina. I wish you all the best. I can't wait to see your program when you launch.
Yes.
Be posted. Thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Thank you for having me. It was a blast.
Thank you. Thank you. And hey, listeners, if you want to watch Sabrina and see her beautiful face, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Otherwise, you can listen to it on our podcast. Thank you so much. See you next Friday. I'm out. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Thrive with Omu Podcast. This is your host, Omu Obilo.